Elden Ring is a game that so many people are excited for, and it's a little bit strange in the sense that this is a game that's supposed to be out within the first half of 2020. It was announced all the way back in June of 2019, E3 of course, and nobody can forget that trailer. The CG trailer was awesome, but this is a game that we still don't know much about, and it is shrouded in a lot of mystery. I imagine a lot of that information is going to be slowly rolling out over the next few months, and I do ultimately think that the game is going to be out within the first half of 2020. I think it would be in Bandai Namco's best interest to release this game within the first half of the year, and then maybe a year down the line you can do an upgraded version on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, whatever the case may be. However, in today's video, I want to cover some of the new rumors that Elden Ring open world is inspired by Shadow of the Colossus. It's going to feature varied design, dynamic enemy placement, weather cycles, and much more, as a new rumor has just come out in the last few days. As pointed out in an article by WCCF Tech, which we'll leave in the description box below, Elden Ring is said to be one of the most ambitious games ever created by From Software, and yes, that is the indication that we've been given, that Elden Ring, even compared to games like Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne, it is gonna be on another level, but we know very little about how it will be different from the previous games created by the team. According to rumors, the world design will be the first thing that will set the game apart from the Souls series and Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. Omni, who has proven in the past to have access to insider information regarding From Software, revealed earlier this month how the Elden Ring world design will be a setup in the Souls series in several ways. The landscape design has been inspired by Scotland, and the open world, or rather open field as the leaker describes it, has been inspired by Shadow of the Colossus. Shadow of the Colossus, I don't know if everybody's played that game, but that game has a phenomenally designed open world, so it taking inspiration from that game, that is an incredibly strong sign, and that makes me personally very excited. And if you played Shadow of the Colossus in the past, you're probably in the same boat. Side note, if you've yet to check it out, the PlayStation 4 remake is rather good, and I would highly recommend it. Which, kind of funny how all of these things kind of interconnect. Shadow of the Colossus remake done by Bluepoint Games. Bluepoint Games currently rumored to be doing a Demon's Souls remake. Getting a little off track, but kind of funny how all that stuff comes together. A game that features an amazing sense of scale, of course, is Shadow of the Colossus, so Elden Ring implementing that would be very exciting. A lot of the elements found in this world will be dynamic and change on their own, such as enemy placements, and there will also be a day and night cycle and a weather system, which is apparently not going to be particularly innovative. However, that is something a little bit new and interesting for the From Software style of game. Elden Rings is also going to feature smaller locations in the vein of the Souls series, so variety promises to be very, very high. All of these locations will be filled with enemies, and they will be smarter than ever, coming up with elaborate strategies to kill the player. That's rather interesting. It looks like they're putting a lot of emphasis into creating quality AI, and that's something I'll definitely be all over. Omni specifically noted, as someone who generally isn't into most of the last decade's open world AAA especially titles, Breath of the Wild included, I would say that if you're in the same boat as me, you don't really have anything to worry about in terms of how FromSoft is designing their open world, and it's the reason they're pivoting away from even really calling it open world and moving more towards the distinction of open field, to denote a greater openness than past games have provided, while also staying away from the popular and overused open world trends, which doesn't just mean so we made Dark Souls but now areas are big enough to ride a horse through to either, but design elements and direction, especially in terms of open world, are one of the things I plan to talk about and go more in depth with in the future. But there will also be open sections as well as more corridor-like sections in the past games, so it seems like they're trying to bring you a little bit of both elements, but Elden Ring definitely looks to be a bigger game and more open game than the other Souls titles Sekiro and Bloodborne were. Omni also confirmed more recently that multiplayer will be included in Elden Ring, but he cannot say in which capacity, noting multiplayer is in, but truth be told, I'm not really an MP player, so I haven't really bothered to concern myself with the specifics of it, and more detailed information Omni is not willing to share at the time, as the game is far from being finished and gameplay mechanics are subject to frequent changes, and noting, quote, "But I don't want to make any promises that I can't keep, so while something like the landscape as a whole being inspired by Scotland, or the game being inspired by SOTC, weather, and day and night, and other general things are macro things that aren't going to change, smaller micro level stuff like every area asset, NPCs will make it into the final game, or how certain gameplay systems work are in flux and aren't really guaranteed until the game is gold. Something that is true in January might not no longer be true in May, which is why I try to avoid and would prefer not to be asked micro or hyper-specific topics like that, and you should probably be weary of anyone else that claims they do have such detailed info. So if Omni is to be believed, it looks like Elden Ring will not make it in the first half of the year. I don't think that's the world's biggest problem if Elden Ring does end up being released after the release of the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. At this point, it's currently in development for PC and consoles. It could easily transition into a cross-generational title, and with the next-gen consoles having backwards compatibility, I don't think that's the biggest issue in the world. I just do think if a game comes out on the PS4 when the PS5 is in the news, that does take a little away from the luster of the game. Hey, Dark Souls 2 was released in March of 2014 on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. And that was after the release of the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, so again, it's not the end of the world, and they ended up remastering and putting out Dark Souls 2 on the Xbox One and PS4 as well, so they can easily go that route with Elden Ring. It is Bandai Namco, so I fully expect them to re-release this game in some capacity with how they re-released, you know, Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, and they're putting, and they put all of those games in a collection. They know Souls is a gigantic moneymaker. They know that Elden Ring will be a colossal moneymaker. They're gonna take every chance they can to re-release the game and make even more revenue off of it, which I really can't hate on. I imagine publishing a game like this is a pretty massive undertaking, especially with everybody involved with the title. So I don't think it's the biggest issue in the world. I do think that we should be hearing more about this game rather soon, because I do hope that it still is released sometime in 2020, but based on information trickling out so slowly, and specifically with Omni pointing out May as a time where I don't think he's necessarily noting that it could go gold, but that is a time period where, comparatively speaking to now in January, things might be a little bit different. And who knows, come May, From Software might be looking at making the game gold, or the game would be ready to go gold, whatever the case may be, and we could be hearing more about the game then. That would set it up to ultimately be released sometime later in the summer or later in the year. If it does go gold in May, you would think you would see gameplay of the game well before that, and I do imagine within the next few months we are going to see some definitive gameplay of the game, because I do think while things can change in the next few months, I do also believe that the game is pretty far along, at least far along enough that the public can be shown some gameplay. But at the same time, I'm happy that From Software is trying a different route where they are keeping the game a little bit more secretive, keep people talking about the game, and then when you do release gameplay of the title, it is going to be a big event. Everybody's going to be talking about it, and it's going to be all over the news cycle in gaming. I mean, Elden Ring is all over news already, but this is the kind of game where you could do the announcement of a reveal date for the gameplay. That's how big of a game Elden Ring is, and ultimately people are going to be excited one way or another. And I always go back to the point that yes, From Software is a big studio, but they have done a phenomenal job this generation putting out so many games. Again, since 2013, they've put out games. Dark Souls 2, they put out Dark Souls 3, they put out Bloodborne, they put out Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, they put out Dracine, and they put out Elden Ring. They're gonna put out Elden Ring on current-gen consoles and maybe next-gen consoles, whatever the case may be, but they have been one of the most consistent studios in all of gaming. A lot of other studios, and rightfully so, these games are getting bigger and bigger, and they're getting longer and longer to develop for. But look at Naughty Dog taking a lot of time with The Last of Us Part 2, and that's because they really want to get that game right. Look at Sony Santa Monica taking a long time with God of War, and all of these studios taking a long time to put out these games, but From Software is just churning out these games. They are pumping out these games, and they aren't losing in the quality level. Bloodborne was a phenomenal game. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice was a great game. Dark Souls 3 was a fantastic game. Hell, if you want to look at the VR title in Dracine, that was a great game as well. And I think sooner rather than later, unless we're already at that point, From Software has to be heralded as one of the elite game studios in the entire world. You always see studios like Naughty Dog, a lot of the Nintendo studios be put at that level, but I really think From Software, from a quality standpoint, and you have to give them a lot of credit from the consistency standpoint of constantly putting out games, I think they've done a great job from that end as well. But that's going to conclude this video. I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you make of Elden Ring? Is it a game you're super excited for? Are you dying to see official gameplay of the title? Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.